Hey everybody, this is Elliot here, NJ.com. It's Sunday morning, it's game day. I wanted to leave you with some of my final thoughts before we get into the Eagles versus the Rams at Lincoln Financial Field. Kind of a big game here when you consider the fact that they're tied for the division lead now. It doesn't look like they're going to run away with it as much as people thought. So here are some final thoughts and my keys going into the game. Obviously, the big one to look at is the return of Lane Johnson, the right tackle. You haven't had him the first 4 weeks, and it's really impacted the run game. To a man, the Eagles have talked this week, in the locker room especially, about how much Lane Johnson has meant to the team. I had one player tell me he's the best athlete on the team. Might be a bit of a stretch, but it just speaks to how important he is to the run game. So having him back is going to be huge. Speaking of the run game, that's all anybody wanted to talk about this week. And one of the big reasons is because of the struggles of LaShawn McCoy, which I'm sure is nothing new to you if you're watching this video. But obviously, as you know, McCoy off to one of the worst starts of his career, 193 rushing yards in 4 games. That's the second worst output through 4 games of his career, but he's actually averaging the least yards per carry through the first 4 games of his career. You could point to a lot of reasons for that. I mean, it's a big debate. You could say it's the offensive line because they've had all the injuries, or you could blame it on McCoy. I think McCoy is starting to get a little bit frustrated throughout the week when the media asked him about it. He was clear in saying that he thinks he's the same player. He's not worried, and that he thinks it'll get going. If there's ever a week to get it going, it's this week against the Rams. In the Rams' first 3 games, because they're coming off of a bye, so they haven't played 4 like the Eagles have. In the Rams' first 3 games, they're giving up 5.1 yards per carry, which is obviously has to be music to McCoy's ears, and they've also allowed 3 100-yard rushers. So if there's any week for McCoy to get it going, this is it. Granted, the Rams have faced some pretty good running backs. They faced Minnesota Vikings, Adrian Peterson, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Dallas Cowboys with DeMarco Murray, who's leading the league in rushing now. So maybe a bit of a jaded stat, but the fact is the Rams have struggled mightily against the run. Now, even though they've struggled against the run, something else to keep in mind is that the Rams have a very good defensive line, and it could be a big problem for the Eagles' offensive line. One of the biggest matchups to keep an eye on, and really could decide the game, is Robert Quinn versus Jason Peters. Quinn has been a monster in his first 3 games, 4 quarterback hurries, 4 quarterback hits, and that's just in 3 games. So chances are he's going to get close to Foles unless Peters does his job. The other one to look for is Aaron Donald in the middle versus David Moulk. Even though Donald's technically a backup and a rookie, he's been getting plenty of playing time, and Pro Football Focus has him ranked as the Rams' best player on defense, regardless of position. And that's not good news for Moulk because Moulk is on the verge of losing his job, possibly. I mean, he could be benched. The Eagles brought in Julian Vanderbilt this week to meet with. So I think there's a possibility if Moulk doesn't play well, you might see him get pulled and, who knows, potentially go back to the inactive roster, back to the practice squad because I don't think they've been very happy with how he plays. So if Aaron Donald gives him a lot of problems, it's a big game for Moulk. Now, with the offense and defensive line, obviously the whole reason that battle matters is because of Nick Foles. He's a different quarterback when he has pressure on him, just like any other quarterback in the league, but seems to be especially the case with Foles. When Foles has pressure up the middle right at him, he seems to get, trigger happy, or sometimes he holds onto the ball too long. It just seems to really throw him off his game. And throughout the first 4 games, the game hasn't been that good. He's got 4 interceptions, and he's put the ball on the ground 3 times. He's only lost 2 of them, but the 3 fumbles are the most among any quarterback in the NFL. And the 2 lost are second most. So he's having trouble holding on to the ball. 6 total turnovers is second to Geno Smith only among quarterbacks. So, and last week is a big reason why. I mean, he had a very bad game against the 49ers, his second worst QBR of his career under Chip Kelly. Last year, obviously, he bounced back with a big game after the game against Dallas where he was really bad. And through his career, to his credit, he's shown that he can bounce back. But this year, he hasn't really... he hasn't had that big game yet. He had a good third, fourth quarter against the Washington Redskins, but that's really been it. He hasn't been able to put together a full game. So if the offensive line can do its job, Foles should be able to bounce back a little bit, and you really want to see it from him this week. I mean, this is a game the Eagles have to have, even though it's early on. And if Foles is bad again, and the Eagles lose this game, I think you're really going to see questions start to come up about how much longer Kelly can kind of ride with Foles. Now, the best thing Foles has going for him and David Moulk and all the problems Eagles have in the running game, the best thing they have going for him is they're facing against Austin Davis, who's making just his 3rd career start. I know, you look at the numbers and it seems like he's been impressive, but 72% completion percentage, and he's led him to a couple wins. But the fact is, it's his 3rd career start. The Eagles have no excuse to lose to Austin Davis. The defense can't have a bad game. This is a game where the Eagles defense has to win, even if the Eagles offense struggles a little bit. So the bottom line is Eagles have to win this game, as I mentioned before. I mean, the Giants are on a roll. They get the Falcons at home in New York. That's a game they could win. The Dallas Cowboys get the Houston Texans in Dallas. Another game Dallas should win. So you're really looking at, if the Eagles lose this game, they're not going to be in first place in the NFC East anymore. And I don't think many people saw them ever being out of first place in the division. So the Eagles lose to the Rams at home, fall out of first place. You have the Giants coming to Philadelphia next week. I really think, pressure was already up. Pressure is going to only increase if they lose this game. So I don't think they will. I think they're going to win the game. But I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think. So those are some of my final thoughts going into the game. Make sure to keep it locked on NJ.com all day. We'll have all your updates throughout the game. We'll have a live chat. So come join me, Matt Lombardo, and Mark Eckel. See you later.